Hey guys, welcome back to Winding Road Magazine. I'm Tedward, and this is a 2017 Audi S8 Plus. But it's not just any S8 Plus, this is a special S8 Plus because this very car, you might notice the light bar, has been competitive in the Cannonball racing across the country, the secret race across America. This has done 2 times sub 27 hours. The first time was 26 hours, 43 minutes, and it came in second behind that white Audi. That's that white Audi that we saw, the infamous fuel cell photograph, and lost by 5 minutes. That was during the national shutdown with the COVID pandemic. And then after the country reopened, it went out and set a time of 26 hours, 29 minutes. Not enough to win, but still very respectable and up there with the best of them. So let me show you the gadgets, because these Cannonball cars are more than just choosing the right car. You've got to have a car that you can outfit properly. So pretty obvious, you need a big fuel cell. This is a 60-gallon fuel cell, and in addition to the 21.7 gallons in the main tank, this gets you to 81.7 gallons total. So at 12 miles per gallon, that gets you up around that close to 1,000-mile range at 120, 130 miles an hour. And that's exactly what you need to be able to do. This is easily removable, but it does have this nice frame down here, professionally installed, and then these ratchet straps to hold it down in place. But really, that's not going anywhere, even when it's just sitting there. But obviously, you're going to hit some bumps. And yeah, I mean, one of the reasons why the S8 is a good car for this is because it has this air suspension. The air ride allows the car to balance itself out. So when you do add this much fuel, and when you have it fully filled up, it's going to be 490 pounds total fuel. So that definitely changes the dynamics of the car. Around front, we saw the light bars, but there's more than that. You can see when you hit things at high speeds, it can do some damage. But the first run was done with the single light bar, the second one was done with these, and then we've got our laser jammers and our FLIR night vision in order to see some other stuff. If you want to see more on this car, head on over to Tedward Drives. I tell more stories about the exact runs. But today we're just going to focus on the car. Inside, let's see if we can turn this fan down. Inside, you'll notice the fleet tracking box, and when this is in, full regalia, there's a few screens happening here in order to get our Waze, maps, all kinds of other stuff and countermeasures. But we also have this nice integrated panel that was made, all the gadgets and stuff installed by AVI in Boston. They do a great job making the fit and finish look natural. First up, that is going to be your night vision. That's the FLIR. And down here, we have our light bar. So that's going to give us extra light while we're driving down the highway, because when you're driving 150 miles an hour, you're going to overdrive your high beams. And then down here, this allows you to turn off those rear tails when you're just driving with your headlights on. And this allows you to turn off your rear brake lights. So those are all important if you're trying to, let's just say, get the mission done. This car was sourced by the McGovern Auto Group in Massachusetts, or in Boston. Once they knew what car the team wanted to use for this, they sourced this car very quickly, which was nice. And then it was sent off to Bren Tuning because they wanted a little more power. So from the factory, this is rated at 605 horsepower. That's at the crank. This has dynoed 638 horsepower. And we are warm enough, actually. I've been driving around, so I can just show you exactly what that looks like straight out of the box. Now, normally the S8 has a 0 to 60 time of 3.3 seconds. Rolling, it's going to be a little slower, but let's put it in sport mode and bury our foot. It's silly. So why do you need all that power in a Cannonball car? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? You just need to be able to sustain reasonable fuel economy and hold 130 to 140 miles an hour at a time. Well, the thing is, when you think about cannonballing, it's not all just about that middle of the country where you have nice wide open roads. You still have to get through traffic through certain cities, and when you arrive in Los Angeles, you're gonna have to get around some cars. So the trick of this S8 sleeve is that tune to be able to really make those hole shots. So when you've slowed down to 70 miles an hour and a car finally moves over, you're able to get back up to your necessary cruising speeds to make your time. What's funny is with all this power, it's a very docile cruiser. It's actually very comfortable to just bumble around in. There's no intimidation factor driving this. The steering's really fast, so unlike, kind of older flagship sedans, go right ahead, lady. This is not a ship. It doesn't feel like you're steering a boat. It actually does have a very sporty feel. You do notice that it's 4,600 pounds though, and if you had the car loaded with people and 490 pounds of fuel, I think you'd notice it. Let's jump on the highway. As always, we have traffic. But this car's goal is to get around them. We don't have our countermeasures, so we've got to be a little careful. But there's some quirks in this car, right? So that big tank in the back, that actually needs a separate pump in order to feed the main tank, because the car can only take fuel from the main tank. So there's a switch in the back that the rear passenger would use in order to engage that pump, and as you notice the fuel level coming down on your main tank over here and your range starts to go down, you're going to start filling that main tank. However, if you were to fill the main tank after it's depleted while the car's still running, while you're driving, you've got that fuel pump on, this will not go up. This will not go up until you've restarted the car. So you would have to restart the car in order to see that go up to full. However, the range will change. So when you've depleted the main tank and you're feeding fuel from the auxiliary tank to the main tank, all you'll see is that range creep back up, but you won't see that move until you restart the car. So that is kind of a strange thing on this car. It would be nice to just have that real time and know that you've actually just filled that main tank, but otherwise you just got to time it and know exactly how much you're putting in. The gearbox is not a dual clutch. It is we'll put it back in drive, normal mode. It's a torque converter automatic, and it's extremely fast. It can hold the torque. It does a great job at doing its thing automatically. Ooh, there's police ahead. We're gonna just slip back in at a more respectable speed here, huh? How about that? It's definitely a little laggy with the turbos. However, because it has this 8-speed automatic gearbox, it does a pretty good job of figuring itself out, and it keeps it in boost as often as it can. And I think that's kind of the beauty of having these gearboxes. I think we'll just go ahead, get off here. Really should have got ahead of that truck first. Handles pretty well too, which is very impressive for a car this size. Try to avoid the bumps even though you have to stay offline to do it. So in sport mode, you'll notice it's going to hold my gear for a very long time. It's anticipating that I'm going to go for it. You put it back in drive mode, settles everything out. This car is on Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's. That was an intentional move because they do a great job in the wet, and when you're driving from coast to coast, you don't necessarily know all of the weather that you're going to hit. It's hard to always predict a good time to go. You make your plans, you set your date, but there is a level of dealer's choice. It's like you don't know what's going to happen 13 hours after you leave. And for example, in this case, they did hit some rain on the second run, and there was a rock slide in Colorado. That's not something that you would have known while you were sitting on, at the Red Ball Garage in New York. You can't make those decisions. So you do need to have a car that can adapt to conditions, and having good tires like the PS4S's, that allows you to know that, okay, we can still maintain speeds and evacuate water if we were to encounter rain. So, one of the beauties of this car is that you do have power, so when someone's hogging that lane, you can just make your move and not think about it. The heads-up display shows you your speed. That may or may not be flickering due to the shutter speed of the GoPro, but that's great because if you are on a long haul trying to break a record like this, you need that speed up in your face constantly. And although it was also up on the screens of the Waze and the other devices up here when the car was decked out, it's easy to slow down. It's easy to get psyched out because maybe you saw a speed trap somewhere on the side of the road, and then suddenly now it's a little more difficult to maintain 130 miles an hour because those are go to jail speeds, and you've got to do that for 2,800 miles. So it's a good reminder, if you started slipping and now you're down to 105 or 110, time to keep your foot in it. See, what on earth, man? All right, get on it. Go a little CRV. Always look ahead, man. The dangers. That's why driving across America at speed is dangerous. It's not really the speed. It's the fact that you've got to deal with the world around you. It's kind of a frightening place out here. There's other folks who do Cannonball runs, and there's what appears to be less preparation, right? There's a guy who just set a solo record across the country in 25 hours, 55 minutes in a rented Ford Mustang. He stripped out the seats, he put 130 gallons of fuel in the car, he made one fuel stop, and his friend was waiting for him with a fuel pump in the back of his pickup truck and just unloaded in like 10 minutes or less. That's really impressive stuff, but don't be fooled. Although it looks like, hey, I rented a car, put a bunch of fuel in it, and set off. That's that guy, Fred. He has a lot of experience. He's not just some rally newbie. He's driven across the country a few times, and he knows what it's like to do it. So if this is something that piques your interest, I'm always trying to be very careful about this, because as much as I love the allure of Cannonball, it also needs to be taken very seriously. So if it's not something that you take very seriously, then it's probably not a sport for you. You might get in trouble. You might hurt yourself or someone else while you're doing it. So highly recommend, if you look at attempts like that and successful attempts like his, just be aware that he's not a newbie. He knows exactly what he's doing. And granted, it sounds like he didn't have any spotters. There's a lot of luck that came into play with his run. And while I'm sure he could do it again, it would probably take a 2, 3, 4 times to either come close to his record again or break it. Because when you don't have all the countermeasures, when you don't have spotters and all that kind of stuff, it makes your runs less repeatable. Not impossible to repeat, but less repeatable. So just keep that in mind. It's amazing what this big car can do. And it's no surprise that it handled a Cannonball. Thanks for watching. If you want more information on the Cannonball attempts made with this very car, head on over to my channel, Tedward Drives, and check it out. There'll be more to come as time passes and more information can be divulged. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.